Hey friends, are you done with dating apps? Tired of swiping through profiles and superficial chats that go nowhere? Well, swipe left on those boring rituals. Introducing Done with Dating, the free podcast driven dating platform that's bringing human interaction back. We sit down with incredible singles for real conversations on our weekly podcasts. Listeners like you get to know them deeply, then apply to date a guest or step into the mic yourself. Plus, we'll regularly host experts that discuss the dating world and provide advice on self-improvement techniques when you are taking a break from dating and focusing on yourself. Made for the bold, built for connection, your dating journey redefined through the mic. Head to donewithdating.co right now and apply. It's free. Your perfect match is just one episode away. Hi, everybody. Welcome to Done with Dating. In this episode, we're actually bringing back somebody who is a popular guest on one of the other episodes. Alex Most is back to talk a little bit more about his life in dating and in the apps and just his observations and experiences in life that might help people either be entertained or informed in this dating world and complicated dating environment. So, Alex, thanks for coming back.
Hey, thanks for having me here again, John.
I'm really excited about this conversation. I think it should be fun. And I enjoyed working with you last time because you were easy to talk to and really insightful in your answers. Today might be just a little bit different track than we took the last time. If you don't mind just giving people who may not have heard the last podcast just a quick update on where you are in terms of where you're living and your relationship status, things like that.
Well, thankfully, relationship status has not changed since last time we talked, John. I'm still engaged, getting married later this year, still living in San Francisco on the banks of Twin Peaks. I'm actually real excited. When I was living in Boston for 7 years, I had a hammock, and it was one of my pride and joys being able to sit in that hammock during spring and summer. And I finally have a hammock again in San Francisco. So life here is pretty good.
That is awesome. I'm glad you could bring it to the West Coast with you or get a new one in the West Coast.
Oh, it's a new one. Don't worry. The old one died from sun exposure.
And the elements probably.
Oh, yeah.
So, oh, that's awesome. Well, so I wanted to jump back into it and talk about your relationships. The last time you had talked about you had been in several serious relationships, around 7 or 8, somewhere around there. And so what I'd love to know is, did you have a situation where you thought you found the one, but then it crashed and burned? Either maybe early on in your dating experience or maybe later on. If there's an example you can think of, that would be great to tell the viewers about.
Yeah, so my current partner is the only person who I like viscerally thought that I was absolutely going to marry very early on in dating. But I think, there were a lot of people that I had extremely strong connections to that I really saw the potential for a long-term partnership with. And I think with the two of them in particular, I learned the importance of non-negotiable deal breakers and how it is important for someone to broadcast that and stand firm with that. In the instance of these two people, it was religion. So for them, they were open to my religion, where I am not religious, atheist, but I have a Jewish background from my father, so I'm connected to Jewish culture in a lot of ways. And they were Jewish, and they thought that I was Jewish enough. And then their feelings about that changed later on in the relationship as they more seriously reflected on what they wanted and what they valued as our relationship got more serious and more intentional. So I think I learned the value of defining those kinds of deal breakers. But on the same note, I will say it's important to know that people can grow and change, especially with some of those deal breakers. Like for me, I very much want kids. That was a core value of mine and one that I was direct and honest with in dating. And with my current fiance, I shared that, and she didn't want kids. And that ended up being a conversation. Eventually, it became clear that she was open to kids, and now we're excited about having a family. And it had more to do with her conception and vision for her future than it did to have anything to do with like the literal idea of having a kid. But that is to say that I learned the value of deal breakers, but also that deal breakers aren't necessarily deal breakers. That was a monologue. Sorry.
No, that makes sense. I mean, I think people, as you said, people change and adapt over time. And the 2026 version of me is way different than the 2018 version of me. And my core principles, like you talked about, your core values may stay the same, but there's sometimes the periphery of those that can change a little bit. And yeah, that makes a lot of sense. it's good that you were able to talk through it with your partner and figure out what was truly a deal breaker versus maybe the perspective change in terms of how maybe the mutual perspective you have was able to turn something that may have ended that relationship into something more positive and lasting. So that's great. I know you said your this relationship was kind of like you felt like it was the one. Did you ever have a time where you were starting to date someone where you were like, this person is amazing, and then maybe you went a little haywire or too crazy and were like, oh yeah, I think we could do this and that totally threw them off.
Oh my god, absolutely. There was this one time I was seeing this woman, and I was so excited about her, thought it was amazing. I said to a friend of mine, I was like, "It's so great, like, when I'm around her, I feel like I'm just like, hi, I feel so good." And my friend turns to me and she's like, "That sounds like a problem. That doesn't sound like a good thing to be so overwhelmingly intoxicated by someone's presence." And it's true. I came on way too hard, I came on way too fast, and I think what I learned in that is to forgive myself. Like, those mistakes happen. Like, we
Mhm.
literally can't understand the neurochemistry sometimes of how we're interacting with people, and I firmly believe in that moment, my brain was not operating normally when I was around that person.
Yeah, and it can happen to anybody, and it doesn't need to just be about dating, it could be something else too that you just get fixated on, and then
Yeah.
you go just a little haywire for a period of time. Um,
Oh, yeah. We
did
all fall down
did
rabbit
I
holes.
yeah, exactly. Did I hear you say "she," with a friend, or did I hear that wrong?
You did hear me say she, yes.
So do you have platonic female friends?
Yeah, I have platonic female friends. I mean, at this age, when so many of my friends are partnered in relationships, it can be, hard to necessarily define a woman as a platonic female friend when so often you have like relationship friends that you're spending a
Yeah,
lot of
that
time
makes
as
sense.
couples together. But I do
Sure.
have platonic female friends from over the years.
Yeah, uh, I do too, and I've found that they are sometimes way ahead of me in terms of where they see a relationship
Mhm.
going, and I'm just not there yet in terms of
Yeah.
if so I've started to check in with them where I'm like, "Hey, I want you to meet this person, see what you think of them," and they really hated some of the people that I dated, and I remember in some cases were like, "Break up with her." After months of me being with someone, they were like, I've already told you, I'm not telling you again, but it's nice when you can have people that are partners of your buddies in that circle that can give you some feedback, when you are not in the relationship, but maybe you're talking to your buddy's friend, and that's really helpful. The ability for someone to be able to confide in someone of the opposite sex for feedback
Yeah.
is really great.
So, I gotta say, I'm glad that you have such close relationships with those friends that they feel, that they're able to tell you that a relationship isn't working, they can break up, because that's always such a risky thing as a friend. I had one friend who he was in a very toxic relationship, and I was a early person highlighting things to him about the relationship. One time he said to me, he was like, "Yeah, it's like a relationship, but on hard mode." I was like, "Come on, man, like, did you hear what you just said? I'm just gonna say back to you what you said and how this indicates your relationship." But they ended up dating for, I think, a year and a half, almost 2 years, and, he ended up disclosing to her that I had suggested that they break up several times, and it seriously impacted my relationship with him and my ability to spend
Oh
time with
yeah.
him. So it's good that your friends felt, confident enough in their call, but also secure enough in their relationship with you to tell you that.
Yeah, no, definitely it was really good. Do you have a time frame like that you would suggest people introduce people to a significant other? Have you seen something that works well or things like that?
I'm not a big fan of bright line definitions of timing. I think it's, generally month or 2 is a good period of time to introduce someone. Month if you're moving very fast, 2 months if you're moving a little bit slower. But it's at that point where you feel like you have a confident, secure relationship of some kind with that person, and that you're going to be able to be authentically yourself in front of your friends with this person as well.
That's really good feedback. What about when you do meet them? Like how do you when you do have your that, you know, in the past when you did have someone meet your friends, How did you structure it in a way, if you had the ability to do this, where it didn't seem like that person that you're introducing to your friend group was basically sitting for an interview?
It's gotta be some sort of existing social event, right? Like, yeah, if you, like, schedule a dinner where it's, 6 of your friends are right in a circle around the person you're dating, oh, that's gonna be a grilling. But I think, like, a friend's birthday party, an existing trivia night, an existing, event. Like, my current partner, we had a Wine Wednesday tradition where there's a local bar that had half off bottles of wine on Wednesdays, and a lot of months we'd go in there, and so I brought her to one of the Wine Wednesdays to meet a lot of people. Partner before her, it was my buddy's first birthday party. It was a tiki bar crawl. I brought her along.
That makes sense. Great. Great advice there. And then as far as you're trying to eliminate the interview yourself, when you were first dating, how did you try to find out a lot about someone on maybe the first couple of dates, but not seem it be like an interview there as well?
Yeah, so I mean, you especially on in dating as you go on a lot of dates and you have these kinds of things, like as I mentioned in the last episode, my value of reading and wanting someone who values reading. You have
Hmm.
this mental checklist that you want to go through and ask all those things, but you just can't do that. I had a friend actually, he was just texting me last night. He went on a date. It felt like an interview. He got so anxious. She was just firing question after question after question. That's not how people talk. We don't just ask people a long list of questions. Try not to engage with more than a handful of those key value deal breaker questions in a given date and just have a normal flow of conversation where the questions you ask have more to do with what's going on around you or what someone has said than it is with this mental catalog of potential defects in someone you're going out.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. I think in my case with some of the apps could help me to try to hone down the criteria I was looking for so that it didn't become so much of an interview process when we are actually on the date. But we could
Mhm.
actually just enjoy each other's company for the most part. Sometimes some dates just didn't go well, but a lot of times there just wasn't the chemistry there that I was hoping would be there. So yeah, that makes sense.
One of my proudest dates I ever had, I ended in 20 minutes. I got there within about 5 minutes, all the energy was bad, she made a joke about domestic violence. I was just not having it. About
Oh yeah.
10 minutes into it, I asked for the check. We had a very awkward long wait for the check, put cash down, walked out. I've never been prouder of myself.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah, I give you a lot of credit for that. I don't think that there's one. I had one that was like a it was definitely a catfishing scenario, but not
Mm.
anything where there was a response from someone that just kind of shook my core. But the catfishing scenario, that one was luckily just a coffee. So it was an afternoon coffee date. So that was a short date because I was like, this is clearly not the person that I was supposed to be meeting up with. The filters worked really well. So yeah, so in those cases it was pretty quick.
Yeah, I think it's a good reminder that, fundamentally, the person you're interacting with on a screen in online dating is not the real person that you're talking to, right? That is a representation of them in the way that they've decided to represent themselves.
Let's jump into another question I had for you. In terms of dating, I got ghosted a lot. With dating, I'm sure that it happens to everybody. When you have this world full of like ghosting and mixed signals and the apps, how do you advise people to build real momentum toward the actual dates and then further toward relationships?
I mean, so the reality is, if someone doesn't want to go on a date with you, they don't want to go on a date with you. There's nothing you can do to convince them to build momentum for it. So, what you got to do is you just got to be as direct and earnest about your intentions and to try to schedule things and to put yourself out there. And if someone's not making time for you, if they're not responding, that is the reality of it. You don't wanna date someone who doesn't wanna date you. You're not gonna change someone's mind with some secret code. So it is about accepting the failure and moving on. Ghosting is an unfortunate reality of this kind of digital age of dating. I've done it. You've probably done it. Everybody's done it. You feel bad about it. They probably feel bad about ghosting you. One time I had a woman, she ghosted me. 3 weeks later, she texts me and she's like, "Hey, I don't wanna ghost you, so I'm not interested." And to be honest, that was even worse than ghosting.
Right, right. Right, because you just got past it, and then all of a sudden she's, like, back like, "Hey, by the way, I'm still not interested, but I just didn't I felt bad." That's
Exactly.
funny.
She was doing that just for her own gratification in the
Right.
moment.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but I was past it, exactly, like, I had moved on, and that is the best thing you can do in this, is to engage directly, put yourself out there, ask people to go out, and if they don't want to go out with you, well, you know what? Move on with your life.
Yeah. And I mean, some good advice I heard about ghosting is that when you are ghosted, it's not about you, it's about what that person is going through maybe in their life, and maybe they're not ready to accept who you are, or they're not ready in their life situation at that time. And so, like, for people who are actively being ghosted when they're on the apps, there's probably something going on in that person's life that you just don't know about. Now, very often, if it's an early part of a like, maybe before you even go out on a date, sure, it's probably ghosting, or they found a better
Mm,
option or something like that. But that, like, maybe post first date or something, or after a couple dates, it's probably them. It's probably not you. And
yeah.
unless you
And
made a
also,
really bad comment where someone decided, I'm leaving after 20 minutes because you shook them to the core.
and I will say, I don't consider non-response on an app to be ghosting. I think ghosting, for
Right.
me, is a term that only refers to that in person. Because, like, realistically, women just have a deluge of men who are messaging them on the apps. Like, they'll have
Yeah.
50 likes in a row and they'll be going through it. Like, I have a lot of sympathy for women and the amount of attention and the challenge of giving any one person the attention that they deserve for reaching out to them authentically.
Yeah, that makes a ton of sense. And again, I had talked about having female friends. I tried to put myself in their shoes when I was trying to connect with women on the dating apps, because they would tell me, you have no idea what it's like as a woman on a dating app. Like you said, the deluge of messages that come in, or the types of messages that come in. And then some guys can be verbally nasty. Some
Mhm.
guys can send inappropriate comments, appropriate photos, and it just throws a woman off. And she's just like, what the heck? And we're going to have some podcasts talking about that, the female perspective of dating in 2025 and 2026. It's important for men who are listening too to know, like, the women are going through a lot, especially when they open themselves up on this app. A lot of the women that I met had a false name on their
Mm.
profile, and it wasn't about being tricky. There wasn't something with their relationship. They were just nervous about meeting a total psycho of a guy. And we're just like, I just don't want to put my real name on there until we have that connection. So maybe after we chatted in the app for a bit, when I would ask them for their number and they would give it to me, then they would be like, "Oh, by the way, my name is so and so, and this is just the name. This is maybe my middle name, or this is just a name I use on here because I'm worried about people figuring out who I am."
Totally, and I think, yeah, it's not a new statement to say that the way men interact with the world is different than the way women interact with the world, and I'll say for any men listening to this podcast to make sure that you have that perspective and that sympathy and understand that dating is a very different, oftentimes dangerous thing for women than it is for men.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And I was prior FBI, and I typically would not order drinks. If
Mm,
I was meeting a woman, I was almost always 15 minutes early for a date.
yeah,
Sometimes they'd be on early, sometimes they'd be on time, sometimes they'd be late. But I would choose not to have a drink sitting at the table, because again, it's one of those things, you want to make sure that they feel comfortable when they sit down. Some people would really be nervous, like, is there something in that water? What did he do to that drink before I got here? And so
yeah.
so I tried to be cognizant of that. With the FBI background, probably a little more paranoid than most people, but I did communicate that to women, and typically they were appreciative of that,
Yeah.
because it's a crazy dating environment out there.
And I think that's part of the reason also you wanna have those first dates in public locations. I had
Mhm.
a buddy who, he'd just come off of a long-term relationship, and he was scheduling his first date after that, and he was like, "I'm gonna take her on a hike in the forest." And I was like, "That's a terrible idea. She is gonna feel very unsafe with that proposal. Meet her for coffee, meet her for a drink. Have at least 6 people able to see you when she first meets you."
Yeah, no, it's true, because you're not thinking about it, or someone might not be thinking about it from the perspective of, this sounds really fun and romantic, until her friends are like, put your signal on so we can see where you are. And she's like, hey, I'm just going here in case you don't hear from me. That's a true thing in the world of, mostly the world of women. I'm sure there are men that are worried about that, and in some cases are the victims of that as well. But I mean, obviously, overwhelmingly, it's going to be the women who are feeling that way. Going back to what you were talking about, I mean, it sounded like you had very good insight in terms of not taking it personally, especially on the apps before you actually go out and meet someone in person. But how did you stay optimistic when things didn't work out? And what kept you showing up for the next possibility?
Yeah, so, for me, it's so easy to get fixated on the failures, right? And you can be in this long string of failures. You can have like a month where you're getting no matches. You can have a season where you just haven't met anyone who's exciting. So for me, it was always anchoring on the strong connections I had. I dated for probably about 10 years, depending on the definition. I'd say every year I had at least two strong connections with people. Some years more, no years less than two, where I really felt like this was someone that I was excited about, that I could see something happening with. And I just remembered that no longer how long the dry spell was going to be, that strong connection was waiting for me in the future. And that the only way to encounter that again, to refresh my optimism and faith in the possibility of finding that long term partner that I knew I could find, was about putting myself out there with that belief that I could have that connection again.
That's great. I mean, I felt very similar in terms of that too. And like you just have to kind of just be aware, just know that you might get hurt. But
Yeah.
if you really want to find something and you want to find something that's lasting, you have to put yourself out there. It's the only way you're going to do it.
Yeah, and
That
again,
makes
to
sense.
not let that hurt change your self-image. Like, you
Right.
are not your rejection in dating. You remained, I mean, for you, you were a FBI agent who was living a happy life with lots of friends and had a kid. Your life was fantastic. It was just this one aspect that you were looking to fill in.
Yeah. I was never an agent, but I was a bunch of different positions in the bureau, but they all had that same commonality in terms of I didn't like to bring that up in a kind of dating environment. Although it did come up because when I was actively working in it, like I had to tell them what my job was. I chose not to do the stupid, it's classified. I tell you, but I have to kill you line. I never use that or any kind of line like that. But I know we are getting close to time. It's been awesome having you back on the show. I really appreciate the easy back and forth and the easy way of talking with you. And I think you're really going to be a fan favorite here. So if you are a fan favorite, would you be willing to come back again another time?
Absolutely, John. I love talking about this. I love hearing your perspective on this as well. I'm excited to hear all the interviews you told me that you have lined up. No spoilers for the audience, but I would be more than happy to come and chat with you anytime, man.
Awesome. All right. Well, Alex Most, thank you again for the great conversation and the easy flow of this. Thank you, everybody, for listening. So, if you're done with endless swiping and ready for something real, don't miss a single episode. Hit that subscribe button right now on your favorite podcast app and never miss the bold conversations that could change your dating life forever. Every week, we bring you incredible singles, excellent advice, raw stories, and real opportunities to connect, all for free. Subscribe today, apply at DoneWithDating.co, and turn your next listen into your next date. Your perfect match is waiting on the other side of the mic. It doesn't matter where you live, someone local is listening and will want to date you. We'll see you in the next episode. Subscribe now.